What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate reverse rants, no hate. So let's talk about Andy Ruiz versus Chris Areola. Now, for one, I want to say, I want to address what I've been hearing as far as Andy Ruiz is concerned. A lot of people said, "Oh, he was drained, he was weak, um, you know, he lost too much weight." Andy Ruiz has not been in the ring for a while. Okay, Andy Ruiz was proud of his new physique, the weight loss. He said he feels good, he feels confident. Now, let me tell you how that's complete garbage about him being drained. He was able to fight those 12 rounds with no problem, just like he did when he fought AJ in the second fight. And he was, what, 20, what they say, 20 something pounds heavier then? Okay, let's not forget, Chris Areola was also much lighter in this fight than he was, previous in his previous fights. So that's nonsense about him being drained. Oh, his punches didn't look strong. No, let me just tell you guys something. And I saw some different things happening in the ring. Okay, first off, when he got dropped, right, the second or third round, he got dropped because his hand touched the canvas. Okay, he got stunned a couple of times in that fight. And one thing I saw different than Chris Areola usually just coming in straight line with his hands up. Chris Areola the whole night, he wasn't standing just still. He was standing side to side, moving his head. So every time Andy Ruiz was trying to throw something and catch him and time him, he couldn't, because even when he was, he throw his jab, move, 1-2 move. He wasn't giving Andy Ruiz a steady target like most fighters do, because Andy Ruiz has fast hands. Most of his opponents, they anticipate the shots coming. Like when he's going to throw, he's not fast on his feet. His hands are faster, okay, than the rest of the heavyweights. But his feet are not fast. His movement and cutting the ring off, that's not there still. I told you guys watch people hit a heavy bag, hit mitts, watch them sit there and do certain moves in training, not against an opponent, just demonstrating, just showing certain footwork or head movements. It's different when something's coming at you, or when you have a target that you're focused on. Did you see any of this new shit in Andy Ruiz? Like he said he's like Tyson now, right? No, Chris Areola was more like Tyson as far as the head movement. They're tall, so they're not going to get low and do all of that. You didn't see any of that come from Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz looked frustrated. And basically, Chris Areola, he's always been the guy. He doesn't try to outbox you. He tries to knock you out. Okay? He's always been the guy that comes forward and try to get you out of there. And unless you start catching him with something, Chris Areola likes to come forward. He doesn't like to go backwards, okay? He can't fight backing up anyway. Andy Ruiz wasn't able. He won the fight. Don't get it twisted. Andy Ruiz clearly won the fight, but he didn't. It wasn't a dominating performance. Okay, this fight was just designed for just that. Look, Chris Areola lost a unanimous decision to Adam Kalnakis, right? He lost to Deontay Wilder. Even the commentator said something about how he's never, he wasn't dropped and all. No, that's false. That's false. Actually, I had a couple people tell me that they said that in the fight, and I'm watching the fight, and I was, at matter of fact, when that comment was made, I was making a smoothie, so maybe I missed that. But I said, well, if they said that, that's false. That's false, because first off, Berman Stavern made him do the stanky legs in every match. Twice he dropped him, and the ref, it doesn't matter if the fight ends you on your back or on your feet, on your stool. Okay, the point is, he lost. So I don't know if I said, because I basically, what I did when I watched when I was watching that fight. I'm gonna go back anyway and go over that fight. I watched Derek Chisora and Joseph Parker like 4 times already. So this fight I'm going to watch again. And I don't remember what round that they said that in, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to watch it. It's okay to give props to a guy, but if they said that he was never knocked out, now maybe not knocked out cold like the ref counting he's on his back, but no, he's been stopped. Like I said, Birdman Stavern made him do the stinky leg twice in every match. Wilder made him do the stinky leg. That got him out of there. And so basically, when you look at Chris Areola, his career, he's never been a world champion. He's always been a contender. He came to fight, but again, we didn't see anything different. We didn't see anything new from Andy Ruiz. And from, what I look at too is this. Chris Areola, okay, is a veteran, so he has experience. The thing was, Chris Areola was smart enough to get that head movement. All right, him and Joe Goosen or whoever, they Chris Areola, you watch his fights, he's known for just coming in with no head movement. All night he was, all night he just kept moving his head. And pretty much, the one shot he caught right here, pause. They caught right here on his wing. The hook that he caught. It bothered him. You could see him like shake it out, and at that point he stopped throwing punches the way he was earlier. He was throwing it less. He started jabbing more, less power shots. He wasn't fighting the same at that point. Now, I can understand him being pissed off, and they gave him 2 rounds or something like that. I think they out the whole fight. But at the same time, I can understand being pissed off. Something like that happens, and then you can't perform the way you wanted to. But look, y'all, let's be real about something, okay? If he's another guy that gets hurt a lot too in fights, Chris Areola. But Chris Areola, he's a guy that at the age he is now, if they do have a rematch, it needs to happen right away. Andy Ruiz said that he, hey, we can run it back. And pretty much, if he was able to sustain what he was doing for the 12 rounds, who knows how that fight would have went if he didn't get hurt. Because you could definitely see that he was bothered by that punch to the wing, to his left wing. But, things like that happen. Now, for Andy Ruiz, okay, this is the crazy part to me. At one point, I'm thinking, goddamn, they talking about AJ as much as they talking about the 2 fighters in the ring. They just kept bringing AJ up. Let me just break something down to you guys. We all know styles make fights. First off, what happened with AJ? Okay, AJ never made up an excuse. He never even talked about the phone call. Okay, well, the fact that he was concussed. Okay, he never even bring that up or mention that. But we know what Seraphine said. Okay, we know that Seraphine told a story that Joey DeWaco concussed AJ, and he called them to let them know that when he was supposed to fight Jarrell Miller, and so AJ never brought it up. Now we all know everybody was saying something ain't right with AJ. We all was saying the same thing. Something is just not right. We know even his biggest haters were saying the same thing. Now we know Vladimir Klitschko is a much harder puncher than Andy Ruiz. AJ never got dropped and looked like he's out of it. He just was going down with he was just going down. And the shots that was landing wasn't even really big shots. Regardless, he fought him smarter in the rematch. Now, personally, with AJ's reach and his movement, he did what he was supposed to. But as he starts to adjust, when you start to adjust to like a newer style, like something doing that you're doing, you add more things to it. I thought he did a solid job against Pulev. Now, no matter who AJ fights, no matter what fighter, who it is, as long as you have haters, people are going to always find something to criticize about what you're doing. Okay? All of that, getting in like Tyson, going under the long reach, side to side, you didn't see any of that. If AJ was to fight Andy Ruiz again, okay, my thing is, he doesn't have to try to stand in there and fight with him or try to do, well, just because Chris Areola did this, I'm going to do it. I think if he pumped that jab a little more and fight, you still got to be quick to move, lateral movement, side to side movement, use the long. It's several things that AJ could do if he actually does this and add it to his game. But people that's talking about, oh, see, Chris Areola stood there, he didn't move. No bullshit. Chris Areola was moving. He was moving. He engaged on the inside a lot more than AJ did. Yes, he did that. But he was moving. He did not stand there and fight flat foot. That is bullshit. That is false. Anybody saying that, you guys need glasses. You need some glasses because you saw something completely different from what I saw. He was moving. He was not just standing there in front of him, standing just slugfest with him. He was standing there. He would move. He was jabbing. He was jabbing. He was moving his head. When he was ready to get in, he'd work his way in smartly. He did these things, okay, because Andy Ruiz, I just did a video on Joseph Parker and Chisora, and I'm saying the same thing for Andy Ruiz that I said about Joseph Parker. You didn't see improvement. The biggest difference I saw was his physique. When he said he didn't train for AJ, he didn't have a problem doing 12 rounds. No, remember, right? Oh, if he was lighter, he'd been faster on his feet. He'd have been able to cut the ring off. He wasn't able to cut off shit. He didn't look tired at all. He didn't like fatigue, like struggled to get to the 12 rounds. Not one time did he look like that. So basically, the hand speed is like it's there. You saw it's there, but putting his punches together, well, what makes Andy Ruiz, and I saw this in him, and I've said this in several videos, he doesn't know how to cut a ring off. What makes him look so good is when guys that's so much slower than him stand there and try to trade with him. And with him being short, he'll catch a shot, he'll turn his upper body in a way where he kind of slaps over it with that first shot, and then he just let his hands go. And then what happens is, the majority of these heavyweights don't use head movement. So once he gets over that shot, he catches you. It's the speed. You don't see the shots coming, and he can hurt you that way. Chris Areola was side to side, his head all night, just kept moving his head. So he was never a stationary target for him. So when he actually hurt Ruiz several times, like Ruiz got hurt like 2 or 3 times. When he hurt him, what he did was let him know that I can hurt you. Now, we know Ruiz got heart. Chris Areola got heart. The way they fight, they want to come forward. And so it was more of a stalemate type thing. But, yeah, Chris Areola was the one that was moving and, which is nothing wrong with that. Okay, but the point is, if you look at Andy Ruiz, it just goes to show you boxing skills, okay? Boxing skills can overcome what he has. He basically tries to time you and outquick you. Similar to the way Shane Mosley fought, somewhat. It's not so much that Shane was a great boxer. Shane was more of a I call him a stylish puncher, man, because that's what he basically did. And if Shane knew he can get his shots off, he can get to you, and you couldn't get away, he'd be all over you. That's what Andy Ruiz does. He when he's trying to gauge what you're trying to do, and he'll see what shots he can get off. And once he can see he can get you, he has a problem. When he fought against Joseph Parker spent a lot of time moving. And he was throwing punches. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people thought that Andy Ruiz won. when I watched that fight, I'm like, I don't know, man. Because I wasn't really impressed by either guy with what they were doing. I understood what Joseph Parker. I understood what they both were doing, but I understood why Joseph Parker was moving. People were saying he's moving too much. He got fast hands too. Yeah, but technically, okay, Joseph Parker is not a technically savvy fighter. He's a decent boxer. Andy Ruiz has exceptional hand speed, but Andy Ruiz needs to be able. He needs you to cooperate with him for him to really get those shots off. You look at any knockouts that he have, you look at anything that Andy Ruiz has done and he looks impressive, it's always against flat-footed fighters. It's not against the guys that can move and give him problems. And Shane Mosley had that same problem. Shane didn't have a problem with guys that can punch. Shane had a problem with guys that can box. And I see that with Andy Ruiz. Because even with Joseph Parker now, if you look at what AJ did versus what Joseph Parker did, AJ was far more effective. Okay, Joseph Parker was moving. Like he didn't want to engage at times. Even when he was engaging with him, his hands wasn't fast enough. And we know Joseph Parker got fast hands. His hands wasn't fast enough to compete with him. That's where you mess up trying to fight with your ego. You're trying to fight a guy on the inside that's shorter, and that's his fight. So Joseph Parker was moving, but the thing with Joseph Parker, man, is he's so predictable. His punch selection is like, he doesn't get creative with what he throws at you, and he doesn't give you different angles. He just moves, and then lets you catch up to him. Move away, let you catch up to him. And that one punch at a time, 1, 2, one punch at a time, no combination punches. At some point, it gets to the, you're either going to wind up getting countered with something really hard and get knocked out, or you're just going to be afraid to throw certain shots because you keep getting counted. And when a guy has faster hands than you, okay, what do I have that works to my advantage that I can get this guy a problem with? This is what you have to figure out and what you have to use. And for AJ doesn't have slow hands, but AJ's a big, tall dude. And when AJ's throwing shots, why? Now, let me ask you guys. Why in the hell would AJ be this tall, fight that guy this tall, fighting this damn close? For what reason? You know, for me, you know, and it's not about me. I can sit there and say what I would instruct AJ to do, but that's not even important. Bottom line is, I didn't see any real improvement. I didn't see any improvement in Andy Ruiz's boxing skills. Same Andy to me. Same Andy, just lost some weight. All that you saw him going under the aqua bag and all that, throwing his combinations, move, footwork. Where was it? Did you see any of that last night? Because I didn't. I didn't see any of that. So, for what it was actually a good fight. It was a good fight. It was a good scrap. But the point is, there was nothing extra gain. Chris Areola had everything to gain and nothing to lose in this situation. Okay? Even with the head side-to-side movement, and I'm even saying, okay, since you know, a little bit short, he's a little bit short. And I've heard people say that that Andy Ruiz is like 5'9", 5. I'm like, nah, he ain't that damn short. Come on, man, stop. They had him at 6'1", 6'2". He might not be that tall. I don't know. They got Chris Areola at 6'3". And he didn't look that much taller than Andy Ruiz. So, I don't know. But, where was the jab to the body? Where's the feints? Huh? Where's the feints? Where's the lateral movement? You know? Where was any? I mean, nothing. No feint. Feint. Check left hook. Just certain things, you know? Feint, lean, roll, come up, boom, uppercut to the bottom. Like, where was any of this stuff? And I'm watching, and I'm just saying, yeah. Again, I come to the same conclusion. People can talk, but I don't expect something out of a person that they're not capable of delivering. So, you can learn and improve, but what I always say about boxing, I said it in the last video, I'm going to say it in this one. A fighter has to feel comfortable doing the things that they have just learned, especially especially when they're fighting someone who's good enough to give them a problem when they do these things. It's easy to do it punch in the air. Anybody, yeah, right. He look good. Yeah, all that catch, bam, right? Then they get in the ring, one punch at a time, one punch and hold, one punch and hold, one punch, run, hold, one punch, run, hold. I mean, so where was any of this stuff at? He been training with Canelo and Eddie Reynoso, and yeah, he gonna be a beast. I'm telling you, yeah. Okay, I'm just saying, where was these newfound skills? So this is what I'm saying. I look at fighters and I look at what you bring to the table, and I just analyze it that way. You can get better, your skills can start to deteriorate. Either way, for me to give you more skill than what you have is not going to make you, in my mind, that's not going to make you win the fight. We can look and say, if this guy does this, if he does that. Any fighter, we see Wilder got back at the gym and he's, hitting the pads, and again, people pointing out, oh yeah, he's moving his head now, he's doing this and that. It's like, yeah, okay, cool. When you get in the ring, this is when it needs to come out. I've been studying these guys and just watching, even all day, even while the fight's on. I was just watching other fights, doing the undercard stuff. I'm watching and just kind of watching, spoiling myself, watching multiple screens at one time. And I can tell you this: when you start to elevate your game and you start to understand that the things that you're really great at might not work as much against certain guys, but you know how to put it all together where you have a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, and you start mixing these things up. This is when you are a complete fighter. What I see with most of these fighters is that they're good at one thing. It's like they're not great all around skills with most fighters. It's like, this guy got great power, but he lacks speed. Yo, this guy got great speed, but he lacks power. Yo, this guy got great speed and power, but he can't box. Yo, this guy got great footwork, but he don't have a chin. It's always something that they lack. And my thing is, I don't see how you can go into a training camp and your people, well, if you have a team full of yes men, this can happen. Because I don't see how you can go here and lack like that, and nobody from your team is, hey, look, this is what we need to work on. Hey, you know what? I was watching this. I noticed when you throw this. Why don't you do this? Why don't we? I mean, I see such a lack of technical boxing, man. That is like, and then the funny thing is, I sit and watch a Mayweather fight, and I'm going, you know what, man? People can call Mayweather boring and say whatever, but I really respect his brilliance, man, because this is a dude that mastered the art of boxing, that understood what to do and what not to do. Now, people can try to shoot down any fighter. It doesn't make a difference. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just pointing out the things that I see. My whole thing was, if you are standing there getting hit, if I stand there, look at it this way. If you put your hand in a frying pan that's hot and get burnt, do you need somebody to tell you why you got burnt? You have common sense to know not to keep doing that, right? As a fighter, it's the same thing. You have to know why you're getting hit. You have to understand. You practice drills and do this stuff every day. You watch fights, you study boxing. You have to know why this guy's able to get to you. You have to understand that. If you don't, you're a fighter that's going to be fighting uphill battles often. Why? Because if you actually need someone, now don't get me wrong, your cornerman is vital. But what he's telling you, when you're really skilled, you know it. If you're watching the fight, you can tell why this is happening, right? So while you're in the fight, same thing. You know what the guy's doing, and that's what you're trying to counter or trying to get away from. So you know, or trying to beat him to the punch. You know what's going on. My thing is with these guys, it's like they try so hard to do the same repetitive things over and over and over and over until it's not working for them. And they get to the point they start getting countered because now your opponent knows what to look for, especially when fatigue starts to set in and your hands are not as fast as they was earlier. Your punches don't have the same sting on them. So, you have to be smart and wise with how you approach each round. And what I'm seeing with these guys is even when they have a full tank of gas still, they're still like just not doing what they need to do to get the win. And my thing is, for you to fight hard doesn't mean that your face got to be all banged up and you got to look like you went to hell and back. It's just basically you get to a point where you're fighting these guys, you're fighting your opponent, and you're so used to resorting back to something that used to work or worked against a different opponent, you don't feel comfortable trying to do something else. So the later you learn skills in your career, you'll still resort back to what you normally used to doing when these things are not working. And this is why a lot of guys get so punch shy, because it's like they're getting hit, they're getting counted. And how many countless times have you watched fights and the trainer's in the corner, man, you gotta let your hands go. Listen, I'm telling you, throw the jab, feint, throw the jab, come up with the uppercut, man. When you come with the uppercut, put your hand up and roll, because you're gonna come back with, or and there, okay. 3-4 rounds straight, they're telling them the same thing and they're not doing it because they don't feel comfortable. Maybe the reflexes are not as good. They're not as fast on their feet. Maybe the fatigue is starting to get in where the body just won't move the way they want it to. But bottom line is they're not doing it. And I'm going this direction because with these fights that we're seeing, there's so much promise that people want to be able to believe in and say, yeah, this is going to be a great fight. Oh, this guy's going to do this and this. So even if I say I think it was a good fight, it still lacked a whole lot of things that we expected to see. And in this situation, mostly from Andy Ruiz, I give Chris Areola more props because, in all honesty, now Chris Areola always comes to fight, okay, always. But the guy is a journeyman. Andy Ruiz struggled to beat this guy. Now, it's not like he came into the fight hurt. He got injured in combat. So there's no need to say if he wouldn't have. It's like you got two army forces going at it, and one guy, they shooting planes out the sky from the other guy. Well, if they didn't shoot our planes down, hey, this is war, man. You should have been more stealthy with your approach, with your tactics. This is war. Man got caught in, boom. All right, hey, that punch did it to you. That's part of the game. It's one thing if you got injured before you came in the ring. You got injured in the ring. So Chris Areola, basically, he was fighting pretty much with a damaged arm. He couldn't really, you could see he was just throwing it, just throwing his jab, but there was nothing behind it, man. He stopped throwing power shots with it, like I said. And basically, that changed the whole fight. No doubt, Andy Ruiz won the fight. Now, if Chris Areola, I'm not even going to say deserve a rematch, because, like I say, he just lost the fight. He got hurt in the fight by a punch. Didn't swing, missed, dislocate. I mean, whatever. This is all. Hey, man, this is war. Right? This is boxing. If there's any interest in a rematch, to me, it would be based on the fact that, okay, he got hurt in the fight. What if he gets hurt in the second fight? Or maybe he might hurt Andy Ruiz. Who knows? But the fact that he was able to drop him and hurt him, and people, let's not forget, AJ dropped Andy Ruiz as well. They constantly kept bringing AJ's name up, and I'm like, man, AJ's not in the ring. Why y'all keep bringing AJ up? They want to make the comparisons to the way AJ fought him versus the way Chris Areola fought him. That doesn't mean shit. They're two different fighters, man. Okay? Do I have to keep going to the same analogy? Muhammad Ali lost to Joe Frazier and Kid Norton. And of course, he beat them as well. But he lost to them. They gave Ali hell. There's no two fighters who gave Ali more trouble than Frazier and Norton. George Foreman knocks the both of them out quick, fast, and does it to Frazier twice. Ali knocks out George Foreman. Do you expect Ali to say, oh shit, you know what? I'm going to fight Joe Frazier the way George Foreman fought him. Well, next time I fight Ken Norton, I'm going to fight him the way Foreman fought him. No. Ali and Norton are two different people. So every time they make those comparisons and trying to tell you that this is how you got to do, not saying that it's something, because there are things I feel like AJ could do where he could benefit from, but he has to be comfortable with it. And when I watched the fight, bottom line is this: AJ completely outclassed Andy Ruiz in the rematch, blew him out the water. Y'all can talk all that, but he danced all night, and whatever. Well, he ran all night. Like I said, when Ali did it, it was called dancing. When Ray Robinson and Ray Leonard did it, it was called dancing. You know, when Pernell, at times we get on the back foot, but Pernell mostly, move lateral movement side to side. He never really danced a lot, but anybody else did it, it was dancing. All of a sudden now in this generation, it's called running. I think that after last night's fight, for Chris Areola, it would probably be better if he did rematch Andy Ruiz, because a lot of people will know he got hurt in the fight. And they'll say if he didn't get hurt, he probably would have won. We don't know. But then they may use him as bait for another guy who may go in there and completely just destroy Chris Areola. And I'm saying that that's a reality that could happen now. But I'm saying that because I saw several things with both guys that I see other elite fighters being able to capitalize and tear both of their asses up. And Chris Areola, look, man, the guy lost twice to Bermane Stiverne. He lost to Kalnaki, who was destroyed by Hilarious. Okay? He got knocked out by Deontay Wilder. So he's been beat by different styles. And when I watch Chris Areola, look, let me give you something. Chris Areola moves his head. When he jabs, he pushes his jab, right? He pushes his jab. He steps and he pushes his jab. And when he does, when he throws his right hand, if you watch him a lot of times, both his feet even squared up. How he throws that shit, he leaves himself open for counter shots often. He has no footwork, really. You understand what I mean? And pretty much he has that high guard, but he kept his hands up. That's another thing he did smart. He kept his hands up. So he wasn't allowing Andy Ruiz to just sit here and pick him apart with unnecessary shots. And don't get me wrong, Chris Areola was never any bum. He was never a bum or nothing like that. He's just been in a lot of wars. He got a lot of wear and tear in his body. He's a journeyman, but he's tough and he still has heart. But there's a lot of things that he do that you can capitalize on. A lot of things. And I was watching how Andy Ruiz just wasn't capitalizing on these things. And I said, yeah, I don't see this head movement. Chris Areola's the one going side to side, moving his head, not Andy Ruiz. I don't see any of this explosive Tyson stuff he's talking about that he's going to do, and that, all this training with Canelo and Eddie Reynoso. Like I always tell you guys, it don't matter who you train with. I don't care who's barking orders in your ear. If you're not capable of going out to do it, then you basically just going to lose with a new trainer. That's all it's going to mean. I mean, Andy Ruiz won, but it and don't get me wrong, there's other fighters that will make the mistake of trying to fight Andy Ruiz by standing there going toe-to-toe with no head movement. Like I said, and the flat-footed guys with no head movement make Andy Ruiz look really good. If you're not as fast as him and you're standing there and you're trying to trade punches with him, and him being sure that he can move to at least, even if he just do that Joe Frazier shit, just push his head to the side, and then bam, come over top, because he's fast. But Andy Ruiz, when he got dropped by Chris Areola, it was actually during an exchange. And that's what I liked, because Chris Areola was showing him, I'm here to fight. The thing with a longer guy like AJ, you're not, first off, you shouldn't be that close to the guy anyway. But the thing is, when you jump in and you're trying to take the guy out, the thing is, okay, with Andy being a shorter guy, you're leaning and reaching for your shots. So you're leaving yourself open for a counter. And if you're not like really fast to get those shots off, well, when he throws a shot to cut your shot off, he's going to catch you wide open. And when he does, he's fast enough to just keep letting his hands go. So he might get 2 or 3 in before you can really recoup the way you need to, because you're overcommitted to your punches. And that's the problem when you're a tall fighter, especially fighting a shorter guy, is you overcommit to try to get the shots off. You're trying to keep a guy at the end of your punch, but when he's moving and you're already leaning over, reaching, you're wide open. Chris Areola was keeping it tight. Now, we know AJ keeps a tight defense, but AJ's 6'6". You understand what I'm saying? So AJ, in my book, fought a smart fight. A smart tactical fight. Kept his patience, kept his pause, and that was the key. Keep patient, stick to your game plan, keep it long. There was no need to go in there to try to appease people that, oh man, if I fight this way, they're going to criticize. They're going to criticize no matter what you do. But they constantly brought his name up. Personally, the way Andy Ruiz looked last night, I wasn't impressed, even though the fight was an interesting fight. But there was too many things that I saw that either fighter wasn't doing. But I was more focused on watching Andy. I was watching both, but like Andy's the guy. Because this fight, let's be realistic, okay? Chris Areola haven't been relevant in years. In over a decade, he hasn't been relevant in the heavyweight division. This fight was basically, let's take the rib cage and give it to the lion and watch him devour it. And this is going to put Andy right back in conversations with the top guys. Just like Del Boy was supposed to be that rib cage fed to Joseph Parker. And neither fight went the way that people expected it to go. So Andy needs some serious work. Simply because the things he relied on in the past, which was pretty much his speed, and his weight, he's always been a fat guy. Now, the excuse was that if he would have been lighter, he'd have beat AJ, right? He'd have been able to cut the ring off. And you didn't see him be able to do any of that. He led the same Andy, and he was much lighter in this fight. So where was all the cutting off the ring? You didn't see any of this brutality, this stuff that he was claiming he was going to do. So he needs some more work. Joseph Parker needs some more work. So this is what I'm thinking. Like I said, if there's any interest in a rematch with Areola, it shouldn't be because the judges. He clearly lost the fight. First off, let's not get that twisted. He clearly lost the fight. But the fact that people thinking if he didn't get hurt in that fight, that he probably would have won. Now, if Andy Ruiz feels like he wants to do it, okay, fine. That's up to him. That's whatever. That's all good. But it shouldn't be based on the fact that they only gave him 2 rounds or 3 rounds or whatever it was out that 12-round fight, because he still lost by a long shot, all right? I'm thinking like this, okay? Joseph Parker just got back in there. He fought Junior Fa. He didn't look good. He didn't look impressive against Del Boy either. Maybe Andy Ruiz and Joseph Parker can fight next. Maybe Andy Ruiz can fight Deontay. I don't know what's going on with that allegation situation, the arbitration situation, all these allegations and everything. So I don't know what's going on with that. I'm not going to make a video about the 80 million nonsense, because I already got wind of that, and I'm like, first of all, ain't nobody paying nobody no $80 goddamn million to step aside. And then 2, if he was paying him any money, Tyson Fury, I'm talking about, of course, what sense would that make if they're going to fight? What sense would that make? that money would be, because we heard the money was for physical damage, right? So, all right then. And then we also heard it was first, oh, well, pay me, then y'all can go have y'all fight. Well, if he's going to fight Deontay, what would he be paying him? It makes no sense. So what I'm saying is if he has that available date open, okay, where he can fight somebody else, because it doesn't look like AJ and Fury is happening anytime soon. If Deontay Wilder has improved any, okay, and he watched Andy Ruiz, he should be sitting there going, I knocked this motherfucker out now. Oh, I know I can beat Andy. Now, you can also underestimate a person. That's not what I'm saying he do. But if he see the same things I saw, if Deontay Wilder, the way he fights, and how he like to keep his hand out there, keep you back. Because Andy's only effective when he gets close. Andy will counter you if you let him get close enough. He's not a good rangefinder though. And if Wilder can keep him on the outside and Pam catch him with the right, now even though Andy's going to anticipate that, where I see things going wrong for Wilder is when he's throwing those hooks or trying to throw an uppercut. Because if you ever seen Wilder throw hooks and uppercuts, his timing is just not there. Even though he did catch Areola with a nice one. He rocked it with a nice left hook. You know what I'm saying? But like that Chris Areola as well, no head movement, just coming in straight. But if you watch him when he throws those shots, Wilder twists at the waist. He doesn't boom, boom. He doesn't, you know what I'm saying? He twists. He twists at the waist, if you understand what I'm saying. He doesn't have his feet planted where he can boom, or you know what I'm saying, boom, boom, and get his body behind the shots. He twists from the torso up. And I can see him leaving himself wide open. But also, I'm saying that because this is Wilder we talking about. So I'm talking skill for skill. He's not a skilled guy, but he has enough in his arsenal, man, that if he was to actually just keep Andy on the outside of that reach and catch him and boom, give him some feints, move, go to his body, jab his body, move, it's just a lot, man, a lot that I saw in this guy last night, and I'm like, yeah, Andy Ruiz, he's one of those guys. He needs you to stand there. But I said that anyway. Before last night, I said that. But I'm saying we were supposed to see the new and improved Andy last night. So, same old Andy to me. Anyway, y'all, look, never fall in love with lies. Remember, the truth brings hate out of people. And, again, good fight. Props to both fighters. I'll catch y'all in the next video.